Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's video of the week. And I got with me my good buddy, Matthew. How's it going today, Matthew?
Going well, going well. How about you?
Very good. Happy New Year, everybody. Matthew's there in the office in Knoxville. And as you may or may not know, Matthew's one of the people that handles the customer support at RNK Distributing. And if you've ever sent in a support ticket, you may have heard from Matthew. So thank you, Matthew, on behalf of all the people that I know that you've helped in the past. Anyway, Matt, thanks for coming on. Matt and I often get together and talk about questions that come up. And we decided that some of the good questions might be kind of fun to record about them, right, Matt?
That's right.
Good. So what do you got for me this week, buddy?
Well, I was helping a customer with a design, and they wanted to know how to change the color on a segment. So I was able to show them how to do that. And then we noticed that there was a little gap that appeared in a satin stitch.
Right.
And we wondered how you would go about fixing that.
Gotcha. I know exactly. I can always kind of guess when I hear that gap, kind of what's going on. And so I think I can answer it pretty easily. So thanks, Matt. That's a good question. And so Matt sent me the design and I've already looked at it. So I already know exactly what he's talking about, the gap. And so let's show him how to fix the gap. All right. I'm going to click on share my screen. And so I'm going to open the design up and it's just saved on my desktop as it's a DST file. So just like any kind of embroidery file, it's like any Jeff or PES or VP3 or whatever format you use. Generally speaking, I like to call them stitch-based formats, right? They're not like our Floriani files. And so if you've got the file, and so I know that I'm just going to open it up first of all and do nothing extra, but just kind of select it and say open and explain that what Matthew was telling me was the customer wants to change the color of this border. So it's like it's not just the color blue. Like it's easy to select just the whole color blue and say, well, let's make that, a different color of blue or whatever color you want. But because it's like partway through that color, and when you open up a design and kind of keep it in its original form, there's just stitches. So it's logical to convert. So what we do is when we open these designs up, so it's the age-old question, should you or shouldn't you do this, convert to outlines? And absolutely, you can always do it. What happens is the software reads the stitches and it actually interprets them. So the first time I opened up the design, I didn't allow the software to do anything to the stitches. It just kept the original stitches. But the second time I opened it up, we allowed the software, we asked the software to convert the stitches into outlines or shapes or segments, whatever you want to call them. Now, when I look at the color here, on my sequence on the side, if I kind of click the plus, notice that it has a lot of segments now, whereas in the first time I opened it up, it was all stitches. And so that's what, if you scroll through all these, you might find the one you're looking for. Look, it's right there. You can kind of tell that that's the border right there. Or the cool thing is now, you can usually just select them. So it's going to be grouped together. If I try and select it, it's going to all get selected. So I'll need to click on ungroup. That way I can click on that empty workspace to let go. And you literally be able to just click, and pick that border up and change its color. So that is absolutely a correct way to do it. And that said, you told me that you guys got a little gap. And so where was the gap, Matt?
It was in the upper left corner.
Okay.
Where
so what I'm going to do is just like watch it sew out. So I'll just use the slow redraw and So here's the sort of area of fill, that's the underlay, and here's the kind of like, background fill. And so here's that, now we've changed the color to the border, right? And we've got this, we changed the color of the steel stitch border, and notice that's right where it starts and stops, like you said, top left. And
Right.
so, okay, here's what's happened. Now, something of interest, if I just save this right now, we probably won't get the gap. But the gap, and I know because I tested this, right? If I just select this whole design, or even just that one piece of the design, whatever, but if I do something to cause the software to regenerate the stitches, like to make new stitches. So just changing the color doesn't kind of get it to make new stitches. But as an example, if I make it bigger or smaller, like that little bit, then the software goes ahead and calculates and generates new stitches. And this is when the little gap that you guys noticed shows up. And I can see it now too, right there. Okay, so the reason that happened, when the original, remember the original design, the software just had stitches for all that color. And when it opened, it read the stitches and it said, you know what? That looks like a standard fill. It could see that this shape, and it made an object for it. And it's one of the magical things about the software, really, Matt, because it means that you can do things like change. If I go back to the one that the one that I opened the second time, and I can change the size, and notice up at the top, it's got 14,646 stitches. If I hit undo, originally it was 12,900. So when I made it larger, the software went in and generated new stitches. So unfortunately, in this particular case, when it generated the new stitches, it created a small flaw. And the reason I thought, when you asked me about this, I thought this is a good one because I know this happens to everyone, right? The little gap. So why does it happen? You see, the software saw this border. It understood that that was a satin stitch border. And notice the gap's not there yet. But even just if I come in and I use on my properties box and do, for example, what if you just decided to put some pull compensation on it, right? Make it a little fatter. Maybe it wasn't quite fat enough and you wanted to make it fatter. So you came in here and you put 0.1 or 0.2 kind of millimeter of pull, and it would fatten it up. But once again, that's when that gap shows up, right? As soon as you do anything that makes it generate the stitches. So why? Okay, when the software made that shape, it obviously has been confused at this point, and it's right where the two sort of like beginning and the ending met, where it's kind of falling short, and probably what it is. So we have to kind of zoom in over top of that area, nice and close like this, so that we can really study it, and then select that piece and use your tools for edit shape. Okay, so now you're going to be able to see kind of what's going on in here and why is there this gap. And I normally when I see this, it's got something to do with the outline getting confused. So look right here where it kind of starts, and I see like right away I'm noticing like there's an extra point there, and I think that so the software sees this back and forth, and it makes a shape for it. And on occasion, it's a small weird area, like this, where the beginning and the ending started. It's confused. Now, I know from doing this in the past that usually if I just move this inclination over, watch this. Oh, got a little closer and I could just keep moving that. I know it's funny, but like it could be just as simple as moving that over. Okay. Or if you really want to get scientific on it, you might actually come right in to that area and try and figure out like what happened to that shape there anyways, like how many points are there, and can I like fix it? See, there's one side of it, and see how it kind of like ended on a corner, like it's like anyway. So it had something to do. I can't explain it, Matt. I just can show you how to fix it, right? It's like kind of a stupid thing. It's only on occasion. It doesn't happen all the time. but I can make them nice and smooth again. At the end of the day, when you convert stitches into segments like that, and then have the software make new stitches, if anything goes awry, it's probably going to be figured out by going into that shape tool and studying what exactly did the computer make, what angle lines are there or what points are there. Right at that gap, we can easily fix it. So that's the good news, is you can make your designs bigger or smaller. And if there are any kind of small weird things that happen from converting it, you just have to know how to fix that. So good question. Thanks for asking it. But when I was fixing it, I kind of also thought to myself, there's another way, like a totally different way. And because it comes back to that original question, when should you or should you not convert stitches to outlines? And because when you do convert stitches to outlines, it's essentially saying, I'm going to let the software make new embroidery stitches, and you need to understand that you no longer are sewing the original design. You might have got it from your favorite embroidery designer, but if you open it up in your own software and start letting the software tinker with the stitches, then you really can't call them back up and say, hey, something's going wrong when I stitch it out, because it may have something to do with that process. So, but that said, if you leave the original stitches, so remember the first time I opened it up and I didn't check the checkbox, so let's just go back again and show, when you click on your open button and you select a design to open, this is what we're talking about. Do you or don't you convert to outlines? And if I don't, it opens the design up and keeps it in its original stitches. And it's good to know, because you can use it to do a printed run sheet. You could change the format. You could change the colors. Like I said, come in here, choose the color blue, scroll through, make it a totally different color. So the benefit now is I know that I'm still sewing the original stitches and not, the software hasn't made any changes to them. However, I just thought I would show, so there is another way to add the color stop, right? Because what you really want is the machine to stop at a certain spot. So if you just use your slow redraw tool and you kind of go, okay, it starts out with the word construction, then it does bills, then it does the underlay, then it does the fill. And then after that fill, it's probably going to do an underlay. Can you see it now? It's walking around, and there's that border. So where do you want it to stop? Probably, I could stop right there, but probably at the underlay too. Really, it's probably you get to the end of that fill, right? It's like when you get right to the end of that fill, so I can just kind of move it. See how I'm just holding right here on the kind of like one stitch at a time button right over. It's like the slow redraw tool, and I'll just hold that down and let it till it gets right to the end of that fill where it's going to start run stitching. And there's a stop button right here. And that's like insert stop. Boom. And so now notice that color is broken into stitches, to like two different pieces of it. So because it just happened to be at the end, it was actually a really easy one to do, because now I can take those stitches and give them like a different color. So I was able to change the color by inserting a color stop. It'll in a knot, but not change the stitches in at all. So in one way, if you're buying designs and they're already kind of really good sewing and you're just wanting to do small things like maybe insert a color stop, or maybe you just want to make it slightly bigger or smaller, but you don't really need any new stitches changed, just a small size change, you can leave it as stitches and you don't even, so really just as long as people understand that when they convert stitches to outlines, that it does allow the software to make changes to the stitches. And with that comes great power, comes, the need for a little bit of knowledge so that you can kind of navigate the kind of tough spots. But so I gave you two kind of good examples. Does that, will that be it? I hope you enjoyed that, Matthew.
Yep, absolutely. I think we learned a lot.
Good. And hopefully that helps your customer or our customer. And thank you so much for helping everybody that calls in or emails in or my favorite way is when they use the support ticket system, because it makes it easy for us to follow up on, and Matthew sometimes gets me to help out and all that good stuff. So happy New Year's to everyone. Thank you, Matthew. Hope everything's going great there in Knoxville and main RNK offices there.
Everything's going good. Yeah.
Good.
Happy
All
New
right,
Year to
guys.
everybody.
Well, I'll push stop on the recording. And until next week, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.